What is up, everybody? Welcome to the latest episode of Dear Mr. Fantasy here on the Player Profiler Network. I am Nate Polvogt, your Mr. Fantasy for today, Thursday, March 2nd, 2022. Folks, I'm really excited to get into it. We've had some interesting league news this week, which I'd like to get into first. And most importantly, we have some players who are going to be released here on March 15th that could have an impact for other teams moving forward. We've got Leonard Fournette, who is not going to be a Tampa Bay Buccaneer anymore, which really lends itself to Rachaad White being the RB1 in Tampa Bay, which is exciting news. The Giants are going to be releasing wide receiver Kenny Golladay, which really shouldn't be a shock to anyone. He has been absolutely terrible since his one good season in Detroit. Where he lands, does it matter? Not really. He is unlikely to be fantasy relevant for the rest of his career. I'm just going to put it out there. You can safely drop Kenny Golladay. If there's someone in your league who's willing to trade for him, do that, get what you can, but don't really expect a return, folks, because it's probably not going to happen. We've also got some coaching hires, guys, in the league. We have got the Broncos solidifying their offensive and defensive coordinators in Vance Joseph and Joe Lombardi. And while there might be some concern in Broncos country with the Joe Lombardi hire after what we saw out of him with the Chargers last season, folks, he is there to learn from Sean Payton. And we know from history that Sean Payton will be the one calling plays and leading this offense. So there shouldn't be any concern for any of the skill position players in Denver for your fantasy rosters. And finally, folks, it's NFL Combine week, and we have a lot of rookie news out there. We have a lot of interviews. We have all of the different skill competition sets, whatever you want to say, however you want to say it. But the big news for me is that Derek Carr met with the Carolina Panthers yesterday and the New York Jets. Where does he land? It's unusual for a player to do these kinds of meetings at the Combine. Personally, for me, I think Derek Carr ends up as a New York Jet, which is good for him in fantasy. If you look at those weapons, Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, Elijah Moore, a better offensive line than he had in Las Vegas, I really feel like there's a good chance that Derek Carr could be a QB1 in 2023 if he lands in New York. However, if he lands in Carolina, I just don't feel it. I don't think it's a good situation for him, and I don't think it's a good situation for the team. I think they need to get younger at quarterback. They're a few years away, even in a bad NFC South division. But, folks, that's the fun of all this. We get to see where the chips land here in a few weeks. I expect Carr to sign somewhere before March 15th. There's a team that's going to want to know who their quarterback is, and if the Jets cannot get Aaron Rodgers, which I don't believe they will be able to, it's going to be Derek Carr in Carolina, folks. All right, now that we've kind of dealt with all of that, folks, I want to shout out Jamie. Thank you for showing up, and thank you. It is, in fact, my birthday. Thank you, Royal, for showing up. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you for the birthday wishes. I appreciate it. And Eric over at Green Screens Media, sir, thank you for tuning in. Much appreciated. Without further ado, folks, let's get into our questions for today. The first one we have is from Brad. Got this one on Twitter. Brad down in Adelaide, Australia. Who are a few rookies you're really hoping to have in your rookie drafts in Dynasty this season? You know, without knowing landing spots right now, it's kind of tough, but if you know me, you know that I love tight ends, and there's a tight end in this class that I'm specifically very excited about, and it is Dalton Kincaid out of Utah. Now, he's not necessarily mocked to be the first tight end off the board, though I believe he should be, and there's a lot of trepidation with tight ends because we generally don't see them hit until year 2 or year 3. However, Dalton Kincaid, to me, seems like an instant impact rookie. Now, I'm also a big fan of Roschon Johnson, who people have been sleeping on for obvious reasons. He was behind Bijan Robinson at Texas. However, he was a very impactful player in that offense with his limited touches. He averaged 5.8 yards per carry last season in Texas, which is nothing to shake a stick at, folks. And I really believe that him and Tyjae Spears out of Tulane could be two rookie running backs that we're not talking enough about and that could be immediate impact players in 2023, depending on landing spots. Obviously, this all depends on landing spots for some of these players, because if Tyjae Spears ends up in, say, Seattle for some reason behind Kenneth Walker, he's not going to be as impact as he could be if he landed somewhere like, say, Buffalo, where he could slot in as an immediate RB1 in tandem with James Cook. Same thing goes for Roschon Johnson. And Dalton Kincaid, he just profiles more of a wide receiver type player, very similar to Kyle Pitts. However, he's not going to end up in Atlanta in that Arthur Smith system where they're just simply not going to use him. These are the three guys I'm really looking at that you can probably get in the third or fourth round of your rookie drafts in Dynasty, folks. All right, so next question, we're going to move on to a player that's near and dear to my heart, Jerry Jeudy, because I live in Denver and I'm a big Broncos fan. I know Jeudy well, and I haven't been the biggest fan. If you have seen anything I've said about him on social media, I've been very open about the fact that I just didn't think he could thrive in Denver. However, what we saw at the end of last season with Russell Wilson was a Jerry Jeudy that has the ability to pop off and that Russell Wilson is comfortable with and appreciates his skill set and will use him moving forward. With Sean Payton's offense, I expect Jerry Jeudy to have a huge season. So what would it take for me to part with Jerry Jeudy? I'm going to need a mid-first round pick if we're talking rookie picks. However, I generally don't trade away high-end assets for draft picks. And here's why. I prefer a known asset over an unknown asset. I like to know what I'm getting. Rookie picks, you could be getting Kyle Pitts with the 101, and now going into year 3, you're wondering, what has he done for me lately? And the answer is nothing. Because of that, I'm going to look for a veteran that has solid value. If I'm going to move Jeudy, the only way I'm moving Jerry Jeudy at this point right now because of his potential upside is if I have a deep need at another position and I am absolutely loaded at wide receiver. Some of the targets that I am looking for right now, I want a Jalen Hurts or a Josh Allen. Is that unreasonable? Possibly, but that's how high I am on Jerry Jeudy going into this season. We know he's talented, and he's been stuck with poor quarterback play and poor coaching play for the first 2 seasons of his career. Plus, we've had some injuries. Now, the Broncos are hoping to address the injury situation that they've had as a team with a new trainer this year, which is fantastic. We've seen how well Jacksonville has done with a specific training regimen. They had the fewest injuries in the league in 2022. If the Broncos can turn that around and keep Jeudy on the field, I truly believe he is a top 5 wide receiver in 2023. Therefore, it's going to be really hard for me to want to move him again unless I am absolutely, completely loaded at wide receiver. Guys, everything in fantasy football is very situational. Don't move a player just because everyone's telling you you should. If you like that asset and you don't need to move them, you don't have to. Nobody's going to make you do it, and nobody's going to feel like you're doing a poor job. Do your thing with your rosters, folks. Don't get pressured into anything. All right, folks, we're going to move to our next question. We have got from Sven. He is a friend of the show here. What are my thoughts on the NFL Combine? The NFL Combine is an interesting beast to me. It's something I've been watching for years. As soon as NFL Network came onto the scene and started airing it, I was glued. I would take days off of work to watch the Combine. It's an opportunity to see a lot of these prospects showcase their skills on a national level. They're going to solidify their stock in the NFL draft, and that's fantastic. However, what you have to remember is that these are tests done in a vacuum. We're seeing these guys showcase their skills with no competition. The 40-yard dash, is it fun to watch? Absolutely. Is it fun to see these guys fly and hit these ridiculous 4.2 40 times? It's great. However, can you do that on the field? I care more about what these guys do in a game. Again, it's fun to watch, and it's going to change a lot of draft stock. And for that, that's important to pay attention to, because we know that these players are going to fly up draft boards, and they're maybe going to move from a 3rd round to an early 2nd round pick. Therefore, they're going to get more opportunity because of that draft capital. But outside of that, it's not going to really sway the needle for me. We saw all of the hype about Joe Burrow's small hands and his viral tweet about, well, I guess my hands are too small and I should just retire now. Joe Burrow was in the conversation for MVP last season and again this season. Take everything with a grain of salt with this Combine, folks. We're going to see some players elevate themselves. We're going to see some players drop. But at the end of the day, what they do on the field is what's going to matter come September. All right, folks, we're going to move on to our next question. This one is from Craig Ruth of RotoHeat. Craig, thank you so much for the question. How high are you comfortable taking your top rookie quarterback in a Superflex Dynasty startup right now without knowing landing spots? Craig, this is a great question, and thank you so much for sending this in. Here's where I'm at on this quarterback class. I think we have two clear-cut guys that are going to be immediate impact players, A, because of where they're taken in the draft, and B, because of the teams that they're going to. We're going to see the Texans and the Colts take a quarterback very early on. We might also see the Raiders snatch up a quarterback there within the first 10 picks. As we know, Derek Carr is gone. They're sitting on Jarrett Stidham. That's unlikely to continue to be a thing. If I'm in a 1 QB league and I'm starved at quarterback, I'm immediately going to go after CJ Stroud. I'm going to go after Bryce Young because we know that they're going to be on the field day one. They could have immediate impact. I expect both of them to have immediate impact. However, if I'm more needy in the wide receiver department, I'm going after like a Jordan Addison or a Quentin Johnson. Or if I need a running back, we're looking at Jahmyr Gibbs. We're looking at Bijan Robinson. We're looking at Roschon Johnson, guys of that category. This is an interesting quarterback class to me. I think Will Levis is a guy who could pop off. However, I'm not comfortable taking him early in a rookie draft without knowing landing spots. Same thing goes for Anthony Richardson. I know people have been high on Richardson, but he feels more like a project to me along with Will Levis. He feels like the Malik Willis of this quarterback class this year, where we're all real high on him, and he's going to probably show out at the combine and impress a lot of people with his speed and his accuracy. But I just don't see him being an impact player the first season. I could be totally wrong. I know there are people on the Player Profiler Network who would tell me I'm an absolute idiot, one of them being Cody, and I could be. I just don't see Richardson being an impact player year one. I think he's a guy who starts to pop off year 2, year 3. Hopefully he's in a situation where he can wait a couple of seasons to get on the field and be that starting quarterback. But we'll have to see how that all plays out. But again, to answer your question, Craig, I'm comfortable with Bryce Young and CJ Stroud as my first rookie pick. Outside of that, I'm probably going to pivot to another position. We've got some comments out here in the chat, folks. Let's see what everybody's saying here. Lots of happy birthdays, and I appreciate that so much, everybody. We've got a question from Jamie Parag. We're going to get to that here real quick. What do you think about Tim Patrick or Hamler as deep sleepers? I'm a little bit concerned about KJ Hamler and what his usage is going to be given what this offense is. But Tim Patrick is that guy, folks. I love Tim Patrick, and he's a guy that I've been pounding the table for since he got hurt because you can get him for cheap in Dynasty right now. You can get him for a 3rd-round pick, a veteran that's kind of aging out and you might want to move on from anyway because he got hurt last season, and people kind of forgot about the huge contract the Broncos gave him. He will be a part of this offense, and I would go after Tim Patrick if you can. However, I would stay away from KJ Hamler. He's nothing but a bit role player in this Denver offense. I don't think he's going to see enough volume consistently to be fantasy relevant game after game. There might be some spot times where you want to get him in there. But really, guys, Tim Patrick is the one you're going to want to go after here. Let's get to our next question, folks. We've got from Brad again. Which running back do you feel could have a Jamal Williams type of season and lead the league in rushing touchdowns after not being the front of mind to do that? We're going to go back to Leonard Fournette leaving Tampa Bay, folks. Because now what this signals to me is the team believes in Rachaad White. And while we're all looking at this Tampa Bay team as a teardown, I do believe that this team believes they have a chance to compete in a very poor NFC South division in 2023. They're going to bring in other running backs, but Rachaad White is the man. And I really do think he has the stones to be a 3-down back. We've heard a lot of people say, well, there's no way they're going to bring in other running backs. And of course they're going to bring in running backs for depth. However, when we saw him be that lead back, 22 carries for 105 yards, and we know what he can do in the passing game. His skill set is there. And I really think that Rachaad White's going to be an RB1 in 2023. Again, am I crazy? There's a good chance. But they don't call me Dear Mr. Fantasy for nothing. I do know some things. I really do think that Rachaad White is going to be a player who we're all far too low on heading into the 2023 season. This is a team that is riding with Kyle Trask, folks. They have said that Kyle Trask, they believe, could be the best quarterback in the NFC South, and that's debatable. But this is going to be a run-heavy team in Tampa Bay. It's not going to be the Tom Brady gunslinging offense that we saw the last couple of seasons. This is a team that's going to keep it on the ground, and Rachaad White will be the guy that they're going to go to in the short passing game as well as the rushing game. Don't sleep on Rachaad White, folks. This could be a big year for him. All right, we've got one more question here I want to get to before we get into the chat and a few other things that I would like to talk about here. Which free agent running back do you think could benefit the most from a new landing spot? This is a fantastic question from Sven. Now, first, there are a couple running backs that I don't think are actually going to leave their respective teams. I want to get that out of the way first. We've got Josh Jacobs and Saquon Barkley, both free agents, but I do believe that both are going to stay with their squads. It doesn't make sense right now for Las Vegas to let Josh Jacobs go. They're not going to ride out with Zamir White, and they're not going to go out into this free agent class and sign another running back unless they can possibly go after maybe a Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley's not going anywhere, folks. He is staying in New York. This is a team that made the playoffs despite everything we all believed heading into the season. Brian Daboll won Coach of the Year for good reason, because he turned this team around. Daniel Jones wants a lot of money. I believe they get that done on a franchise tag, and they sign Saquon Barkley to a long-term deal. Now that we've got that out of the way, Leonard Fournette heading to a new team. I believe he still has it in him to be a three-down back somewhere and contribute heavily to an offense. I would love to see him in Buffalo. I think that that would be the best landing spot for him, and it would be fantastic for the Bills. And this could be the thing that gets them over the hump and gets them past the playoffs into the Super Bowl. We know that they need help with the running game. Leonard Fournette seems like the perfect type of vet to put into that locker room to help this team get over that hump. My other running back that I think is going to surprise a lot of people with the change of scenery is Kareem Hunt. Guys, he's been stuck in Cleveland behind Nick Chubb and just simply not used the way that he needs to be used. He needs open field. He needs space. He needs the passing game. He was not utilized that way in Cleveland. He's going to end up somewhere where he's going to be a great complement to a more running back, someone who keeps it on the ground. Kareem Hunt could be an RB2 next season, and we haven't seen that out of him in a few years. He's been barely an RB3 for the last few seasons in Cleveland. This is a year where I really, truly believe he's going to be an RB2. We know that the talent's there. He hasn't really aged out. He's not on that running back cliff, and he hasn't been used a whole ton. If the man can stay on a field with a new team, I really believe he's an RB2 in 2023, folks. Maybe I'm crazy. Like I've said, I've got a lot of wild opinions, but a lot of the times, folks, I am right. We've got Royal Slate in the chat. The Broncos apparently love Patrick too. They do, because he is talented and he can stretch the field, folks. Aaron, Nate, no, Rachaad White ain't it. You can say that, but obviously, Aaron, I disagree. We'll see who's right at the end of the season. And we've got Green Screens Media over here. Trask might be the best quarterback in the NFC South and 27th best QB in the league at the same time. I couldn't agree with you more. I don't see what they're seeing with Kyle Trask, but who knows? He was a Heisman finalist in 2021, so anything's possible, I believe. Jamie Prague says, I've been drafting Rachaad White in all my best ball leagues in the 8th round as my RB2 or 3. That's a steal right now, but I see him rising. I do too. I think we're going to see Rachaad White going in the 2nd to 3rd to 4th round of startups here as we inch toward August and we get through OTAs and we get into camp. People are going to be high on him. So if you like Rachaad White like I do, go get him now. If you don't like him like Aaron Stewart, this might be the time to try and sell him to someone like me who really does like him a lot. All right, folks. Well, that's it for me here, dear Mr. Fantasy, on this fine Thursday. I appreciate you all tuning in. Make sure that you like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss an episode of anything on the Player Profiler Network. We've got so many great things going on right now every single day of the week. Make sure that you are following us on Twitter at RotoUnderworld, at Profiler_NFL. We're here for you. We're here to help you win your leagues, folks. Make sure you get your questions in for next week, mailbag at rotounderworld.com. Again, I appreciate everyone tuning in, and we will see you next week.